Today we've got 10 matches that got a WWE wrestler instantly fired. Now I want to know what we're seeing here, right? There's got to be bot spots. Already what's coming to mind is like the Sim Snuka thing, where he didn't catch the Undertaker, right? That's the first one that comes to mind for me. But I gotta see what's going on here. If you guys want to support the original upload of this content, please click the top link in the description, or you can come react to content with me live on Twitch with the flock by using that bottom link. You can find that I believe in you. If the algorithm brought me to you, or if I'm in your sub box, hi, I want to take up laying out 10 minutes of your time. Can you do that for me? Are we cool? You got an agreement? Young ones, I don't care if you stay or not. We're starting a new arc here, okay? I'm getting tired of saying that. These intros are long enough as they is. So let's just get right into the video.
10 WWE wrestlers that were fired right after a match. Number 10, Bob Orton. WWE should always take the safety of their talent seriously, and in late 2005, the welfare of talent came into question, and it even led to one individual being released from the company. The iconic feud between The Undertaker and Randy Orton would come to an end at Armageddon 2005, and the two would settle their score inside Hell in a Cell, and due to this being a Ruthless Aggression Cell match, there was definitely bloodshed. Cowboy Bob Orton, who had returned to WWE television in the prior months, played a big part in the match, and he was even busted wide open. Unfortunately, this is where the problem began, as Orton was positive for Hep C, and he had it since he was a teenager.
Oh, no. Okay, that's dangerous. Anytime hepatitis is mentioned in one of these things, I think you guys mentioned, was it Abdullah the Butcher also had it? That's scary, man. That's scary. They definitely used to be bleeding all over the fucking place, too.
It was reported that he simply forgot to inform WWE officials. However, it was claimed that the negligence lied squarely on John Laurinaitis, as he was fully aware.
Forgot to tell them. What? I think that's definitely something that the talent agents or like the talent management guys have to be on top of for sure. Like, do you have any conditions? Yes or no? Like, right? Because we can't be having people out there going into like diabetic comas, or you got fucking asthma and we got you working crazy magic. So yes, I definitely feel like that's something that should have been on top of from the back end guys. Boo, Johnny, boo. Johnny, you suck, boo. We blaming Johnny, guys. Everyone in the comments, blame Johnny. Crows, caught Johnny, boo.
Rightly, the dead man was furious, and even though we ended up testing negative for Hep C, it was still extremely dangerous, and the situation should have never surfaced. Orton would be released in the months following the pay-per-view match, and it's firmly believed that any plans to make his son world champion again were completely scrapped. Number 9, Eugene. WWE made the controversial call to bring back the Eugene character in 2009. By the time he returned to the company, WWE were firmly cemented in the PG era. Bringing back such a risky character was going to lead to an influx of complaints. The storyline WWE decided on for his return was to book Eugene in a contract on a pole match versus the Calgary Kid, who would be later revealed to be The Miz. Eugene would lose a match, and this so happened to be his last WWE match ever. It was reported by various outlets that Vince McMahon took issue with Eugene's weight gain, and he was subsequently let go from his contract. Even WWE legend Randy Orton commented on the release, and this is what Orton had to say during a 2009 interview with the UK Sun. He came back 2 weeks ago and came in a little heavy from where management wanted him to come in. Nick is a good friend of mine. He pulls some strings to get his job back, and he comes back all overweight. So all in all, I'm a little upset right now with him. Orton has never been an individual to hold back his true feelings, especially in 2009. Number 8.
So the crazy thing about Eugene to me is like, that's a character I would never think that I would like get behind, but I definitely remember like really rooting for him. The way they played the character was like, go. Is something wholesome about it, even though he's definitely like the butt of a few jokes that are like they age poorly, whatever, but like they're fucking jokes, whatever. It's a deal with it. I know Eugene has like a channel on YouTube now. I saw some crazy titles for his videos, though I have not clicked them. I have not clicked those videos, but he talk about some shit on there though. So it's cool to see that the fellas like Maven and Eugene and like, you know, Stevie Richards have like really successful channels on YouTube. Like, but yeah. I remember, what was it? Fucking WWE Day of Reckoning, I think it was. I would definitely pick Eugene in that game. It's a GameCube game. Fire whiskey, by the way.
Mr. Kennedy. Now, Mr. Kennedy was set for superstardom in WWE, and at one stage, WWE was strongly considering making Kennedy world champion. Unfortunately, an influx of injuries led to him missing a ton of TV time, and when he eventually returned to WWE television in 2009, he would end up being fired immediately after a featured match on Raw. In the match, Kennedy would botch a back suplex on Randy Orton, and this absolutely enraged Orton, who proceeded to complain to WWE management, claiming that Kennedy was unsafe in the ring and he didn't want to work with him. According to Kennedy, in a 2009 interview with ESPN Radio, Orton jumped really hard and his neck never touched the mat. Randy jumped really hard. In wrestling, it's give and take. It was a matter of either I drop him on his head or I help him through this. His neck never even touched the mat, which makes me wonder why he even went to the trainer's room to get his neck taped up. He was so injured that he went on to wrestle 3 nights in Mexico? Now, when Orton heard these comments, Orton ran to the nearest internet message board and he decided to bring up Kennedy's wife. I honestly hope for his wife's sake that he can find something else he's marginally good at and earn a living. I know he really wants to entertain, so good luck, Ken. You're gonna need it. Now, according to Kennedy, it wasn't just Orton who complained, as
Yo, 2009 Randy wasn't above taking those shots like that, man. Definitely. Why was Randy a savage? Huh? We got Randy Savage. Why was Randy Randy being a savage? No?
WWE's top star John Cena also went to WWE management, and Vince McMahon had no choice but to side with 2 of his biggest names, so Kennedy was let go. Number 7, Brad Maddox. One of the biggest stories of 2015.
Brad Maddox, wow. I haven't seen Brad Maddox since some hazy memory I have about Paige and Xavier Woods. That's weird.
Related to the WWE release of Brad Maddox. Maddox was working a dark match against R-Truth, and before the match, Maddox for some reason decided to call the live crowd cocky pricks. With WWE being a PG presentation, Vince McMahon was so livid that he immediately called for Maddox to be handed his release papers. According to Maddox, during an interview on the Two-Man Power Trip podcast, McMahon didn't even want to see Maddox, and he let talent relations handle the sudden release. It was because I call the Indianapolis crowd pricks. I guess with Vince, that is a really bad word to him. I didn't think anything of it, and it's probably worse if you're from like New York in the 1950s, but I didn't think anything of it, and he did. And I got a talking to that night, and I got sent home, and then they called me the next day and said that they decided to make the decision. I don't know why the decision was so harsh. No, I didn't talk to Vince because he wouldn't see me. It was talent relations that came and reported what was coming out of his mouth. I tried to talk to him that night and he didn't want to see me, so I didn't get a chance to defend myself. But when the story first surfaced, fans had split opinions. There were those fans that were sympathetic towards Maddox, however there was a strong portion of fans who questioned what on earth he was thinking by cursing on a PG show. Number 6, Kurt Angle. Now, unlike the rest of the names on this list, Kurt Angle actually requested his release following a match in 2006. After Angle's match with Sabu on the ECW brand, Angle went directly to Vince McMahon after a verbal back and forth, and he requested that Vince McMahon should fire him with immediate effect. Angle was in a lot of pain with nagging injuries and he needed to get away from the heinous WWE schedule. Eventually McMahon agreed, but it wasn't easy for McMahon as Angle was one of his biggest names in the company and he would subsequently release a statement. It's unfortunate that Kurt was released, and it's really unfortunate for the WWE fans who for a while at least won't see Angle in action. Angle is a consummate professional, obviously he's a great athlete, and he's the only Olympic gold medalist in WWE history. Not to have Kurt with us is really unfortunate all the way around, but circumstances were such that Kurt should have been and was granted his release. According to Angle on his podcast, his painkiller problem was a contributing factor to him requesting his release. I was in bad shape, I had a lot of injuries. At one particular time I had the neck injury, the shoulder, the abdominal, I had torn abdominal muscle, a groin muscle, a hamstring. This was all at the same time.
How the fuck was he out there, like, still competing at such a high level in so much pain, man? I can only imagine, dude. Jeez, Kurt.
I was in really bad shape and the painkiller problem wasn't getting any better. So I was in a state of turmoil, and even my relationship with Vince started dwindling, and it was getting more erratic. I was, calling him, leaving him messages with threats. I felt out of control. I was at a bad point in my life. I just couldn't keep myself together. That's the main reason I left WWE in 2006. This was definitely the right call from Angle and WWE, as the wheels were truly coming off, and it's often been stated that Angle leaving when he did saved his pro wrestling career and possibly even his life. Number 5, The Ultimate Warrior. Throughout his various WWE runs,
This has got to be the one where Ultimate Warrior like tried to hold up the I forget which pay-per-view it was. He requested like a different pay, and Vince was like, "All right, sure." And then definitely said, "Get the fuck up." At the end, you are immediately fired for trying to hold us hostage with that, you dick.
the Ultimate Warrior was known to be incredibly difficult to work with both inside and outside the ring. In 1991, just 1 month before the annual SummerSlam show, Warrior would write a letter directly to Vince McMahon threatening to no-show the event unless he was paid over $500,000. But this put McMahon in a tough spot, as Warrior had already been heavily marketed for the show, and if he was pulled from the show, it would no doubt damage the upcoming buy rate. McMahon had no choice but to follow through with the payment, and it would be McMahon who got the last laugh, as following the SummerSlam pay-per-view, Warrior would be fired on the spot. In an official letter addressed to the Warrior, McMahon would state, "You threatened to stay at home, thereby not appearing at Titan's major summer pay-per-view event, SummerSlam. I had no choice but to accede to your exorbitant demands. This was a serious mistake on your part. A wrestler making demands of this nature is rare, but it's happened from time to time in pro wrestling, and the other most notable instance took place in 1999 with Jeff Jarrett." Number 4, Brian Clark.
Yo, $500,000 for a single match? Thinking you to shit like that? Then you get fired? Like, I mean, I wonder what the regular pay was, right? Like, what was the regular rate of pay up until then? It's like, how many matches / appearances did that cover for you? Like, are you gonna be good with your lifestyle after that? $500,000 is no joke, even back then. But like, ugh. That looks kind of crazy on you in business.
WWE had high expectations for the Chronic duo, and they were given the opportunity of a lifetime at the 2001 Unforgiven pay-per-view. The team, which consisted of Brian Clark and Bryan Adams, was to face The Undertaker and Kane, and if this match went well, then there was no doubt that both men would be cemented in the tag division for many years to come. Ultimately, the match was a total and utter failure. The match exposed both members of Chronic for not being at the level of fellow WWE stars, and it was obvious from his face that The Undertaker was utterly ashamed of the quality of the match. After the match, WWE made the executive call to send both men for more training, but when Clark refused, he was released from his WWE contract.
Damn, like, that's kind of dickish, right? Like, it's dickish on bro to decline them. Like, if they're sending you down for more training, there's probably a reason they're doing it. There's probably a reason they're doing it. Don't be a cock and then throw it at the fucking a hissy fit. Like, I'm not going back to developmental. Like, bro, you'll be back, bitch. They just saying you gotta sharpen up, especially back then, where it's not as like, streamlined, or like, I doubt there was like a fucking 24/7 ass performance center you could be in back then. So, boy, if you don't get that, ego is a motherfucker, man. Lesson of the day: get rid of your ego, guys. Nobody likes egos.
WWE taking this type of action following a match isn't common, but they needed to act. The match was truly atrocious, and they needed to make a point that subpar in-ring work in 2001 just wasn't going to cut it. Number 3, Buff Bagwell. Although there was a portion of the fanbase that expected Buff Bagwell to have an epic run in WWE following his arrival in 2001. The problem was that although Buff Bagwell was unique and fairly decent in the ring, he had a notable attitude issue, and this wasn't going to work with WWE's locker room at this time. Bagwell's WWE run was a total bust, as Bagwell would just end up having one match on WWE television. That match was when Raw turned into WCW Nitro and was main evented by Bagwell versus Booker T. It resulted in one of the worst matches in Raw history. The match was flat, botch-filled, and the WWE audience had no interest in seeing a B-level WCW match in the same event.
I'm telling you, man, I can't trust you if you got one of these. I can't trust that. I don't feel safe around. I feel like you're gonna grab my ass, and I don't like that. I don't like that. It's this part that makes it worse, you know? If this wasn't there, what are we doing? What you got like a skid mark. Like you got a fucking skid mark going down your chin, man. I don't like it. I don't trust it, man.
Slot of Raw. When the match was so poorly received, WWE decided to let
See? Even he knew he had to fix it up a little bit. See? That's growth. That's character progression right there. This shit like it's all standing up. We not gonna talk about that.
Bagwell go from his contract, with both his attitude issues and the horrendous Booker match being key contributing factors. Now, in relation to Booker T, he was said to be extremely well liked backstage and had instantly connected with the locker room. Booker was given another chance, and his subsequent feuds with the likes of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin were well received and showed the world that Booker T was going to be a WWE mainstay for the next few years. Number 2, Braun Strowman. It was hard to have classic matches during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre certainly tried at Backlash 2021. The three-man had an outstanding triple threat for the WWE title, and this was a match that deserved to be witnessed by a live audience as it was just that good. But in one of the most confusing moves of the COVID-19 era, it was formally announced just weeks after Backlash that Strowman had been fired. Strowman had gone from wrestling for the WWE title to being unemployed in a matter of weeks, and fans wanted answers. It was reported that Strowman's release was a cost-saving measure, and Strowman was one of the highest paid names on the WWE roster.
That's always nutty to me. How they can go like cost cutting, like, oh, we can really get rid of Strowman right now. I'll never forget when they got rid of Bray, and I was like, is that a typo, bitch? What are you typing? Hello? How did you come to this conclusion?
Cutting main event level talent was alarming, as it showed that nobody was safe from the chopping block. But thankfully it all turned out okay, as the following year Triple H would bring Strowman back into the fold, and he's been a regular on WWE programming ever since. And number 1, Jeff Hardy. There was a collective shock in 2021 on social media when WWE announced that Jeff Hardy had been released. It turned out that the former WWE champion had walked away from a match at a live event, as Hardy was teaming with Drew McIntyre and Xavier Woods against the Bloodline, and after this, WWE requested that Hardy attend a rehab facility, and when Hardy declined, he was let go from his contract. According to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, WWE felt that they had no choice but to release him. Given his track record, there was really no other decision WWE could make. They had to request him going to rehab between his track record and him being impaired in a main event match. When he refused the request, there was no choice but to let him go.
I think this was debunked though, right? That Jeff actually wasn't like under the influence of anything in this particular one. I think someone mentioned that in one of the comments in like another video. It was like, or am I thinking of like another instance? It sucks that there's like another instance to be mentioning, but I think they want him to do like a drug test or something, and he like declined. You think like, all right, well, get out. But it's like, nah, I really wasn't on nothing. Y'all wallin'. There's so many fucking pieces of trivia when it comes to the Jeff Hardy stuff. I really am like probably pulling from different sources at the same time.
WWE did this with full knowledge that there was at least a chance Hardy would be signed by AEW and likely be a major star there, but once Hardy refused to go to rehab, WWE's hands were tied. Now, according to Hardy himself during an interview with Chris Van Vliet, it was around this time his drinking was getting out of control. When I left WWE in 2021, my dad had been real sick. 2017, right after we went back to WWE at Mania, that was probably around the time he felt good for the last time before he slipped back into this dark depression. But yeah, I'd been taking care of him, and it was just bad to where he didn't want to be here. He was ready to go. Our mom died at a young age. I was 10 when she passed away. So I've always told myself when he needs me, I'm going to take care of him. I just did everything I could to get him excited about life and all that stuff. So that's definitely when my drinking got carried away during those times that I never really talked about. Jeff Hardy would go on to have runs in AEW and then TNA, and although the door isn't closed on a WWE comeback, it's likely that the relationship needs significant work following the 2021 incident. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE wrestlers that were fired after a match. Be sure to leave a comment down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
I think it's really interesting about like the Hardy Boys' relationship with the WWE. I think they're like certified Like classics, the door is always open for them. I feel like even when they're fucking 60, they're gonna be able to come back at any point. I I think they've got that type of rapport no matter what. Uh, but yeah, man. Yeah, this was a pretty tight and informative video. I do rock with this. If you guys would like to support the original creator of the content, which you should anyway, I don't just say that to say that. Click the top link in the description. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I did see that they were advertising them returning to NXT. So, yeah. And I'm sure they got like a good relationship with Triple H because like they were all around like at the same time too. That's so tight. Good on them. But yeah, pretty tight video. If you want to react to the content with us live on Twitch, you know where to find that fucking link. Don't be a weenie. Look for that link. I got a Patreon with bonus content that I put up that I could not put up on YouTube because WWE and other wrestling promotions claim their work. So to avoid them getting blocked in territories around the world, we put up on Patreon for free. So go ahead, go on Patreon if you check out content that is exclusive to Patreon that you can't see here. And no, you will not be seeing ghost titties. Don't ask. We don't do that. I'll see you in the next video.